a quick message before we get into this week's episode. For longtime listeners of the show, you know that I have been very reluctant to add sponsors and to add recommendations to our podcast. Our priority is to you, to the writers, and to the creators. And so we've held off to make sure that we can find partnerships that we feel good about and products that I can honestly recommend. And that's why I'm so excited to recommend this week's sponsor to you. Quillbot.com, Quillbot.com. This is a tool that I am personally using to build a newsletter that I haven't announced yet, but it's been hugely beneficial for me. So Quillbot is a paraphrasing tool, and the way that I'm using it is I'm scrubbing long form articles that are very, very in depth with information that I know my audience will really value and appreciate. And I copy that content and I paste it into Quillbot. And Quillbot paraphrases all of the text into a couple sentences, sometimes a couple paragraphs, to really shorten and pack in the information, which allows me to better piece this information into a curated newsletter that I am sending out weekly. For people that listen, you know that I really, really believe in the newsletter space. We believe that newsletters are great businesses to start, and you should start one. If you want to get involved in online media and start creating a business for yourself, a newsletter is a great place to start. And this tool, Quillbot, has been so beneficial for me in building this curated newsletter that I'm working on. It makes it so that I can jam pack a lot of information into not a lot of space. And it really, really has helped me format my newsletter and provide the information to my readers in a way that I know they enjoy, in a way that I know they can quickly digest, in a way that I feel really proud about. So once again, check out this week's sponsor, Quillbot.com, Quillbot.com. It's easy to sign up, and tell them that Tim sent you. All right, let's get on to the show. All right, we're live. Yannick, thank you so much for joining me. I'm really pumped about this conversation.
Well, thanks for having me, man. Thanks for pronouncing my name like very accurately.
It's funny that you say that. I don't do a whole lot of prep work for my podcasts, but my last name is Stoddard, and my whole life everybody says stuttered. And I think about it, I'm like, how the hell did you come up with stuttered by looking at my last name? And it always bugged the shit out of me. And so, like, the only prep work I do to make sure that, like, the only prep work I do is I look at other podcasts that my guests have been on and make sure absolutely I know how to pronounce their name. So Yannick, you are very welcome, and thank you for noticing.
It's awesome. Yeah, most Americans like pronounce my name as Yannick because Nick is like very familiar name in America, but yeah, it's a French name. So thanks for pronouncing it right.
My pleasure. Well, let's jump right into it. You are the co-founder of Hypefury. I'm gonna take a second to hype you up, no pun intended, because I don't buy a whole lot of SaaS products. In my view, like WordPress and ConvertKit is kind of all you need. And I've built all of my companies through WordPress and ConvertKit, but Hypefury is without a doubt the third leg to that stool, so to speak. I never appreciated social media just because of all the time it takes to log into stuff and write stuff and then come back 8 or 10 times a day. And Hypefury totally solved all of that for me. And it's added like a ton of value to my life, man. My Twitter and my LinkedIn accounts are really big parts of my companies. So not really starting off with a question. I just wanted to say, like, thank you, man, because I really, really do appreciate it. Hypefury is the best. And that's why I was so pumped when you said that you would come on my podcast.
Cool. It's awesome to hear. And it's also how we want to position ourselves, you know. We take care of your audience growth and we help you gain newsletter subscribers and, you know, build a business around your audience. So exactly how you should use us. That's great.
So I'm doing it right, you're saying.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my first question, I am really fascinated with the concept of doing it in the first place, and this is going to sound like a funny question, but I really mean it. Your space, it's not like it was wide open. You dove into a market that has, I mean, there's Hootsuite, there's 10 other SaaS companies that have come and gone over the last 10 years that are all about social media scheduling and social media automation. So like, with respect, it was kind of dumb, like I would never jump into that landscape. So what did you see that you thought, no, like, you know what, we can do this, there's an opening here?
Yeah, there were big incumbents in the space, definitely. Like, and I didn't start Hypefury. Like, I hooked up with the guy who created it, Sammy, which was like about 4 years ago, a little bit more. And basically, it was in all these paid communities. He was into like fitness and coaching, and all those guys were also on Twitter. And he asked like the simple question, like, "Hey, can you actually schedule threads with any tool?" And there were none. Like literally none.
Yeah.
Like Buffer that was around for ages, you couldn't schedule a thread. And so that was his aha moment, really, where he thought, well, I'm just going to create an app where you can schedule a thread on Twitter. Built that in 3-4 days, showed it to the community he was in. They were all like ecstatic, and then started his own private beta. I think he invited about 50 people, and just started listening to his users, what do you want me to build next? And that's what he did. He, opened the Stripe account early on, so he could really validate if Hypefury was something people would pay for. And a couple months in, he Sammy like put a message on the Indie Hackers forum saying, "Hey, I'm a developer, but I don't know a lot about marketing. I need a marketing co-founder," and that's actually how we met. And so I left him a message. We started calling. I flew to Paris to meet him, stayed there for the weekend, and then I showed him for like 2 months that I wasn't just all talk, but I could also like do a bit of marketing. I grew Hypefury, and we ended up co-founding it together. That's basically like the start of it.
So cool. I love to hear stories where a lot of people on the outside, I assume, they think, oh, I have this perfect idea and I need to just execute on this like grand vision that I have. In my experience, it's never been that way. It was like, I wonder if this works. So to recap a little bit what you're saying, you needed a thread scheduler, basically. And through that one idea, through that beta, you were able to build on that with different functionality and different concepts and different, I guess, just product developments. And so that one little tiny idea kept compounding onto more and more ideas and brought you to where you are here.
Yeah. It was like a tiny thing to many people, like, scheduling the thread. Most people didn't even schedule their tweets back then. So, but it was like a big thing for like a tiny audience. And from those 50 people, they just kept talking about it. Sammy kept listening to what they wanted. And from a tiny product became like an entire creator suite, if you want to call it that way. And so we're now solving a lot more problems than just that little thing.
What else are you guys working on?
Well, Twitter has changed quite a bit over the last 6 months. That's an understatement. And so, we've had to kill some things. We had some pretty angry customers because we had to change a bunch of stuff because of rate limits and like API endpoints that just vanished, that were no longer accessible. So we have a bit of work to do on the back end still, but we're, right now, like, you can automate a lot of things. So we do 3 things really well, I think. Before you post, so giving people inspiration, what do I talk about? You can view other people's viral posts, you can have templates, you can have all these things that will help you in the writing process. Then like the vanilla scheduler that a lot of other businesses do. And then I think the part where that really sets us apart is the automation. Not just, if you have 10 likes on your post, we'll automatically repost your tweet or we'll add a comment to it, stuff like that. But what people really use this for is also like, I have a tweet or I have a thread, and with one click, you can have a carousel on LinkedIn. And with one click, you can have a post on Instagram. And we're doubling down on those types of, automations that you can, my primary channel is Twitter, but I also want to be on TikTok or on, I don't know, Instagram. And somebody else's primary channel might be LinkedIn. So from LinkedIn, I want to post my stuff to Twitter and to wherever. And so we're now building all these, like, crossroads, if you must, that allow you to easily post things you have on one channel to all these different channels. That's what we're doubling down on.
I think that's really smart because I'm a perfect use case for that. I'm a writer, and the only platform that I actually publish on is Twitter via Hypefury. And then there's the whole repurposing trend going on right now, which has been around forever. It's not like this is anything new, but you guys make it very easy, where it's almost like Twitter is kind of the linchpin in the wheel, where I can come up with my ideas and I can put them there. And then through that, I can customize the content so that it fits, let's call it, the culture of these different platforms, so that those screenshots work really well on Instagram, so that those same screenshots get turned into carousels on LinkedIn, which is pretty popular these days, or they just get published via text on LinkedIn. So what you're telling me is you see that as well, and that's what you're trying to expand upon.
Yep, definitely. You see all these video platforms popping up right now, from YouTube to TikTok to Reels to whatever. And that's also something we're going to add. Right now, if you have like a portrait video, you can already like cross-post it to Reels. And so we're adding a lot more of those, cross-posting features.
Yeah, really cool. Okay, I want to talk about, in my view, for me personally, what I felt like Hypefury really nailed. And I'll just lay them out to you, and I want your thoughts on them. I love the fact that all I have to do is hit enter, and then it schedules at the perfect time. And I know it's such a subtle thing, but I really hate coming up with social media content. And I'm not saying that to be like negative. I'm just saying I feel like out of all the things I could be doing with my life, it is the last thing I want to do. And so I can spend an hour each week, usually less, write down some ideas, type it out, enter. Boom. I never have to schedule it. I don't have to pick the time for it. I don't even have to touch my mouse. And, we're talking like nitpicky now, but it really just does help me get into the flow of getting my ideas out there and then letting you guys cross-promote it for me. So there's that.
Yep.
And then I think you're totally accurate where other scheduling platforms in the past were scheduling for the sake of growing social media, where you guys knew that the reason why people use social media is to grow their newsletters. And I'm like such a perfect example of that. And so, you talked about a bunch of features that you add, but in my view, like the real subtleties that make it perfect for me and why I always recommend it is those two things. It's like the really quick rapid fire, hit enter, and then the fact that you can automatically post your newsletter sign up at like the bottom of a thread or the comment of a tweet or whatever to show your newsletter. So was that like intentional, or did you just discover that that's what people wanted?
Yeah, it was intentional in the sense that was like one of the first features we built, I think. Like in those communities Sammy was in, they all had their newsletter already. They were all promoting their paid products or coaching programs already. So it was a big thing for them. They were selling through their newsletter. So we knew we had to add something like that. And to your first point, like just press enter. Like I love the quote from Elon Musk where he says, user input is error. And so what we try to do, but we have to do that even a lot more, but like things we can automate, we should. Like it's so repetitive to do, I don't know, click on a slot you want to fill, then fill it, and then go to the next slot, and all these tiny little things, we can do that for you. And I think will be an even better product in 12 months time, because that's one of the main things we're focusing on. Like, okay, what can we analyze? What can we fill in? Okay, we've seen that you have a URL in your bio. Let's just create an auto plug for you. If you haven't created one yet, we'll just fill it with one of the top 10% best plugs, and we'll just offer it to you. You want to set this? Yes, done, boom. and all these small little things, they add to us having a great product. Yeah.
User input is error. So basically, like, people are always making mistakes, and the less you can get people to do, the less they're going to screw things up.
Yeah, also that, but also like, if there's anything we can take away from you in a good way, as in something you don't have to do because we can do it for you, I think that's way better than, you having to select a slot or having to do all these, cumbersome things while you only have to press enter and we'll do all the rest.
Yeah, okay. So I just want to focus on this thing real quick, and it's kind of semantics here, but it's not saying that the user is creating the error. It's that having, like, from the development side, when you're developing the product, allowing for the user to do something is like an error on your side.
Yeah, exactly. So what can we do for the user that he or she doesn't have to do himself? It's that simple.
Yeah.
What can we automate? What can we just have ready for you as a user instead of you having to go and do it and set it up or whatever?
Yeah, very cool. Okay, let me transition. There's two other topics I want to hit on. One of them is just the marketing of Hypefury, because you guys have really, really excelled at that, and I want to pick your brain a bit there. But I also want to just get behind the scenes a bit about how much of a shit show it must have been the last 6 months to a year with all of these changes. So when you saw that Elon Musk killed the API, what was it like for you guys? Were you freaking out? Were you panicking? Were you cool and collective? I mean, that must have been nuts.
Yeah, it was nuts. So there were, I think Twitter announced something January or February that there were going to be changes made to the API landscape. And then we were like, well, we might have to pay 100 or 2,000 or maybe even 5, but like, that's fine. And then everything will be as it was. But then we started hearing rumors in the market. Like, we were always in contact with other, indie hackers that were creating social apps. And from one of those people, he was actually already talking to Twitter about their new API plans. And there was really only one plan that was going to be there, was the enterprise plan. Well, if you know enterprise, that sounds expensive, and it is expensive. So we literally had no choice. It was, pay zero, but also have we couldn't do anything anymore on the free plan, or pay $42,000 a month and get a lot of access. But there was no in between. And when we first heard that, and then we got scared, as in, damn, we need to act on this. This is serious. We know how Elon, acts. He just does things, and we shouldn't wait. We should act right now. And so when that became clear, we reached out to Twitter. We wanted to get on board with the enterprise plan as fast as possible, because we just know there's going to be a time, and if you're not on the enterprise plan, you're going to be screwed. And so we reached out, and also on that call, they literally said, well, we have that $0 plan, and we have the $100 plan, which was still useless for a company our size, and we have the $42,000 plan, and that's it. And we immediately said, well, okay, there's no negotiations here anyway. Let's do it. And the funny thing was, so we were in the process of becoming an enterprise customer, but we were one of the few. And he actually mentioned that on the call, and we were like, what do you mean one of the few? We had so many competitors back then. We didn't know their revenue, but we also thought, there must be some more companies that are onboarding on enterprise plan. But you could see, when the hammer came down and the API, the free access ended, you could see one after the other app which is failing, literally, and there was quite a big circus on Twitter about that. And then on top of it, we were so we knew the $40,000 a month plan was coming. We also knew that a lot of those apps in that space, they just wouldn't survive. So we reached out to like Tony from Blackmagic, Luca from Hypefury and Inbox, and some other people, and we were just beginning talks and seeing, hey, what do you have planned? Because after that was like probably 2 weeks before the hammer went down, we were in talks with Tony to acquire Blackmagic, and he knew he wasn't doing 42K a month, so he knew he had to sell or just shut down. And so, yeah, it was a good time for us as a buyer. It was like a not so good time for Tony to sell, but like at least we could still offer him a decent deal that all the customers could, keep using their product. And it was a good thing for us because we could compensate like the 42K we're paying with a couple of acquisitions. So we did. So it was a very tough time. We had to, work hard. There were like a lot of mistakes made by Twitter, yeah. So we weren't very happy that period. Our customers weren't very happy. It was very hectic, but yeah, we're now like in better times.
Well, okay. So you just have to pay the API fee, basically. There's no way around it.
Yeah. You just pay like a house a year almost. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it's $500,000 a year. What I'm hearing, though, and I'm not going to ask you to give me too many behind-the-scenes details if you'd want to, but did this actually end up benefiting you guys a little bit?
I would say yes. Like the 40K a month that's serious money. That's like our gross margin has of course dropped. But like we've added quite a bit of MRR thanks to those acquisitions. So like big part of the 40K is already like compensated with acquisitions, but the bigger thing was probably that a lot of small tools, also small competitors, they just went out of business. There were competitors that were just selling lifetime deals.
Yeah.
We couldn't compete with them price-wise. That's also not what we were trying to do. But yeah, once the hammer went down, we could see a lot of people coming our way and saying, hey, do you also offer lifetime deals? Well, I'm sorry, we don't, because we want to stay above the 42K a month MRR. Yeah. So definitely, it also benefited us. And I think like because we were one of the first, we didn't have any issues with Twitter and being banned and stuff like that. So I think people also saw that hey, Hypefury, they have their stuff under control. My account is safe with them.
It felt that way. I mean, for what it's worth, you guys sent honest, raw emails about this is what's happening. This is what we're working on. As soon as we know more, we'll let you know. I thought it was actually kind of I remember it well because I paid attention to it because I thought it was a good use case of just the value of authentic honesty, and not like people that are inauthentic aren't honest, but it made me feel like there's people behind the brand that are doing actual things as opposed to, like a PR firm just keeping me on the hook for a while. So kudos to you with that. I have another sort of technical question. And I think this will apply to other product builders. So when you acquire a company, is your goal to add the core functionality to the company to Hypefury? And if you do, does that mean that company is kind of underneath that API fee, or do you have to pay a whole nother API fee on top of that with every company that you bring in?
Yeah, so that was actually a big thing for us. When we started talks with Blackmagic, we also informed Twitter that, hey, we were going to acquire, at least that was the plan. And we said that to Twitter, so they could also be like under our enterprise umbrella, so we could still use them while we were in talks and closing the deal and stuff like that. But we heard from Twitter that Blackmagic was in the top 4% of API usage. And so, it was, I don't know, Microsoft, Google, Blackmagic. I don't know, I'm joking, but like they were doing 350 million calls a month. And like the enterprise plan is at 50 million calls. We were doing like also tens of millions. Like we were also doing too many calls, but Blackmagic was just off the scale big. And so our deal was actually escalated to like Elon level because they were thinking like Blackmagic, this must be a huge business. They must be, I don't know, but they were wrong. As in, it was like a very small business compared to all the others. So that actually was a big issue for us. So we had to get the calls down, and we're all now using the same plan. So all the tools we acquired, we're using the same plan, and we're probably for a long time to come, we'll use Blackmagic as a brand, and Hypefury and Inbox, which are like smaller brands. We'll probably integrate them sooner into like our main app.
It's a funny thing where media people always want to be product developers, and product developers always want to be media guys. And so I've dabbled in it. I find it much easier just to invest in products than try to find a developer and build them. I'm 0 for like 30 now. I'm 2
it's
for
a good
2.
tactic. I've done it a lot as well.
Yeah, I mean,
tactic.
You gotta stay in your lane, and I think I've just gotten older and I've lost too much money to. Just learn your lessons.
Definitely. I was freelancing for a long time, and like 25 to 50% of my revenue, I put that into projects. I bought websites, just like you did, maybe at a smaller scale. But yeah, I knew like I'm not going to build things from scratch. It has existing revenue. Let's just buy this and add that as a passive income source.
Yeah, I agree. And so I'm always fascinated with because product development seems so straightforward on the outside. You just build a thing and then you sell as many as possible. But with databases, and I mean, you guys are probably on a much bigger database, but the stuff I learned about Supabase and Vercel, there's so many more intricate details that I didn't even know existed. And so once I started learning that stuff, one, I'm like fascinated with those stories, which is why I ask those questions. But two, it's like, yeah, I do not want to do that. Like, I have a hard enough time keeping track of keywords. I don't need to learn API calls.
It's very complex. Like I think we were spending $1 or $2K a month on some kind of Google database, and now we, switched to Elasticsearch, and we're paying, I don't know, $50 or $100 a month, like for the same thing. It's even faster. So like, yeah, don't get me started. Like I'm not a developer, so I don't know the ins and outs, but I do know like it's a vast landscape and so much choice.
Totally. Well, okay. So then let's get into the fun stuff. What's been the biggest channel for you in terms of client acquisition? I have a feeling, although I might be wrong, that word of mouth has been really, really effective for you guys. Did you? Yep. There's people I find that feel like they have a grasp on how to intentionally grow word of mouth. And I'm sure there's strategies there. I don't know them. In my view, it's better just to build the best product possible and let it take control. But so has it been word of mouth? Have you been intentional about word of mouth, or has it been media, marketing, ads, SEO, and that's of the likes?
Yeah, so word of mouth is definitely a big thing for us. And like we try to like keep our ears open, because like people are constantly in our field, like creating new courses about growing an audience or newsletter or product, whatever. And so we always try to, be top of mind and be open to, collabs. That's also how I came into contact with Justin Welsh. I went on one of his, don't know what it was called, but he did like a LinkedIn masterclass, something like that. Was on there, and after that, we connected, had him on the podcast. Same like with Matt Gray and Kieran Drew and Alex Mathers and all these people. I just try and be in contact with them. I'm not so big in building an audience anymore, like my personal audience. I'm way more like reaching out to people, finding out what they're up to, if I can help, how I can help. So that was and is a big part of our growth. I would say in the beginning of our journey, like having an affiliate program really helped. It's like it was just me and Sammy. And our first hire was somebody who would do customer support questions, because, that was just a lot of work, and we felt that we could do other things. And so when you start an affiliate program, like you outsource marketing. You have like a marketing agency that works basically for free, and you pay them a commission when they, do a good job. That's been a big thing. And then Twitter in general, a lot of people talk about us on Twitter. And lastly, SEO. Like, my background is more like digital marketing. I had like 600 followers when I started with Hypefury. So I had no idea how Twitter worked. I hired a guy to help me get started and explain a little bit about how it works. But like what I really know well is like, or the basic digital marketing, like SEO, PPC. We hardly do any PPC, but like SEO and constantly A/B testing our website, improving it. That's been really helpful.
Glad that you brought up affiliate marketing. I'm like kind of selfish on my podcast. I generally ask questions that I want to know, and I don't know, it's worked for me. But I think affiliate marketing has probably been the biggest missed opportunity that I've had, because I've talked to a couple of people. Like, I remember talking to Rand a while ago, and he said that his affiliate marketing program for Moz was like such a shit show, and it caused him so many problems. But the more I learned about the behind the scenes there, I think it was more like of a logistical thing as opposed to it being like an applicable marketing strategy or not.
Yep.
And so this is an open-ended question. I'm almost looking for guidance here. Is it just a matter of talking to as many people as possible and saying like, hey, promote my product, here's your affiliate code? Or do your reps, let's call them, get value out of having maybe like a back-end dashboard? Like, do you provide them marketing materials to say like, hey, you can use this? Like, give me a baseline on where I could get started with that. Because I'm doing this right now, by the way, for the Academy. Like, this is top of mind, so I'm curious.
Okay. So we started really simple. We just, subscribed to firstpromoter.com. I'm not affiliated with them. I just love their product. It's $100 a month. And, we started emailing people when they became customer, like, hey, great that you joined, that you're paying for Hypefury. Thank you. If you want to tell other people about us and make some money, try our affiliate program. We didn't have like any marketing material back then. It was just like, hey, here it is. You get a recurring commission. Enjoy. But we already saw that people were using it. We were seeing YouTube videos, articles, like all these things like popping out. So we knew it was working. Next step was what we did was we have an app. A lot of people log into that every day. And we just added a small button in the app that says, hey, join the affiliate program. And that increased our sign-up rate by, 300% or 600%. It wasn't like an insane amount of people started using it. So everybody who went through the trial saw that button and could subscribe to the affiliate program. One click, bam, you have a login. Here's your referral code. Let's go. That was a big step. And next, what we did was now we have assets like things people can share an email or on Twitter. We have a brand book. We have like videos that explain, like we have like an entire ecosystem just for affiliates. But we started really slow with hardly anything. Like we had a couple of onboarding videos for the affiliate program, show people what others did that made them successful. But it was very basic in the beginning. And now like after all these years, we've built like quite extensive program.
Yeah, so start small. I mean, of course, that's the answer. Like, start small and then build as you go, right? Yep. I thought there was going to be some kind of shortcut that I could use.
Not really. But like some people, they don't care about like sharing an affiliate code. They just like talking about us because we have a cool program, app, and so it's also like getting a feel of like we've spoken to many people that just said, hey, I'll share you. I don't care about the affiliate program, about the commission. Other people said, hey, I'm definitely going to share you the link a lot more if I get a higher commission level or if I get a special discount code or stuff like that. So we always try to tailor, our offer to what people want. And then there's a dark side to affiliate marketing, which is like, and now we've seen that like really increase a lot, is people are abusing PPC advertising and our brand name. And so like over the last few weeks, I think I killed about half a dozen people that were really abusing our brand name and just advertising worldwide on Google. People, doing a brand search, which is basically like it's low key traffic. They know people are going to convert. They click the ad with the affiliate link attached, and it was doing, I don't know, 10-20% of our total volume, which is people who were doing something we don't approve. And we're quick to remove them, but you do have to check. Of course, luckily you have like 30 or 60 day window to check, go through, and you need a couple of tools to do that. But other than that, I really haven't had a lot of problems with affiliate marketing.
That's good to hear. Like I said, this is top of mind, and that does suck. I've worked in the behavioral healthcare space for a long time, and I can't tell you, it's almost one of the guarantees where if we have a client and we build the brand up, there'll be like a lead gen company that just generates clicks on the brand name. And so, somebody searches for the brand, you got the ad at the top, and then the organic brand name that usually goes to the homepage right underneath it. And you got to do something about it, right? But then sometimes I feel like I'm spending so much time trying not to let something happen where I could be spending that time doing something. So I'm just relating to you on that one. Like I've dealt with that a million times. That really sucks. It's a pain in the ass. But at the same time, it's like, well, I guess I can knock it, right? Like you're trying to do your thing. I mean, I've never done it. I think it's pretty distasteful, but nonetheless, it's a pain in the ass.
Now, you can do two things, I think, to easily identify them. One is just quickly scroll through reports. Like I usually do it once a week. So I do like last 7 days, and you can quickly see like people that are jumping out that have hundreds of clicks, check them out. And then the other way you can do it is I use Google Search Console, and then I filter by country on our brand name. And then I check CTR for our brand name. And so normally it's, I don't know, anywhere between 60 and 80%. So if I see a big drop, I know that somebody's hijacking our brand name with PPC ads.
Yeah. All right. Let's finish thing up. Start finishing this up with a little bit of I want to know where you guys are going. And I always avoid these questions because they're so loaded, but there's so many avenues that you guys can take right now. And I imagine you're having a lot of whiteboard meetings about like, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And sometimes I feel like I call it the burden of choice, right? Like, what do you do when you can do anything? And the best products, it's very rare that enterprise products become like the best at everything, right? In almost every case, the successful ones just nail one particular thing. So what is that like for you guys? Because you really are in like the central point of this huge expanding market, which, I mean, there's no reason to think it's not going to continue expanding for the next 10 or 20 years, or I don't know, forever. How are you dealing with all that? Like, where are you focusing your time right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, one thing we've had a lot of talks on was AI. And like everybody's doing something with AI. Like we have like our tool as just a tiny little bit of AI. And then we think it's mostly for beginner creators. Like, hey, select a couple of your tweets that have done well in the past. We'll create like better versions of those tweets. You can quickly schedule them, done. Other tools, they have like very sophisticated, okay, like make this shorter, make this longer, make this more blah. I know, like all these. And I then think about Elon again, who says that the user input is error. And I think, do we really want to do this? Click a button and see, is this better? Is this better? No, it's shit. It's shit. Like everybody uses ChatGPT. Everybody knows that it's based on that. And then, so we have our own like philosophy on it. And we're probably going to do something with AI in the near future, but it's going to be, a lot different than what's out there because, we see our customers literally also use ChatGPT. They have their own API key or whatever. They can just, they have their prompts, everything. We can't really improve that. So we're going to do something else. I can't say a lot about that, but we're going to do it differently. The other thing, and we spoke about that in the beginning, is like everybody has a primary channel. And we're a big believer in, if you only have to do it once, then we should be able to, fill that gap. We should be able to help people to, be active on as many platforms as they want. And so we're really doubling down on that. Like we have now it's a little bit everywhere in our app. Like it isn't really clear that if you upload a portrait video that you can actually like upload to Instagram. What we're building like as we speak is like more of a cockpit that shows you like, hey, yesterday you had this tweet, it did well. Would you want to cross post this to Instagram? One click, bam.
Nice.
And we're going to do a lot more of those types of things. I'm also a big believer in the app is the plan. So a lot of people, they log in Hypefury for the first time and they see this and they think, what the F do I do here? And we're going to, literally for, if you have 10,000 or 30,000 followers, we're not going to do that. But like 80% of people have like below 2,000 or 5,000 followers. I don't know the exact numbers anymore, but a lot of people, they just need a lot more hand holding. And we're going to show them like, hey, you tweeted this yesterday. You can now do this with that, or you can post it to that, or you can, create all these variations. Or, hey, this person replied to you, or, hey, why don't you reply to this person? Because he's in the same circle as people you're already following. He has a lot of followers. We're of course not going to display all that info, but like that's the behind the scenes stuff we're going to do to make it easier for people to grow their account. Just have them more of a cockpit feel, give them prompts like, hey, this is something you can do, that is something you can do. And we're literally, what we're doing right now is analyzing like, okay, how many times a day do you need to comment? Like everybody's saying, I don't know, 5 or 10 or 50 or whatever. We want to know, and we want to tell people, we want to say, hey, if you're in this range between, I don't know, 100 and 200 followers, you should do this. And we'll have like more of a little bit of a gamification, like, hey, you still need to try and reply to 3 more people today, or you still need to, create 1, 2, 3 more tweets today. That's something we're doubling down on.
Love that. The app is the plan. And I really mean this because I was surprised to discover that growing an audience for me, specifically on Twitter and LinkedIn, really was a skill.
Yeah, wow.
It is. There's a way to do it right. There's a way to get better at it. And starting off is hard, man. I mean, it's hard. And that's why when I get these DMs from people that have like 100 followers and stuff like that, I respond to them. And if someone's trying to start a podcast, like I always go on a podcast, regardless of if it's an audience or not, because I remember that, having like 200 followers and being like, oh, it was Scott Galloway of all people. Yeah, I don't know if you know Scott Galloway, but he was doing like a Q&A podcast where he talked about Twitter, and he said it was one year where I just decided I'm going to get 100,000 Twitter followers, and I was just a professor at NYU that year. Like, why would anybody listen to me? And it really was one of those things. I was mowing my lawn of all places, and when I lived in Nashville, and I heard it, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, I'm going to get 100,000 Twitter followers. I had like 200 then. And so, yes, I'm relating to you a little bit, but I think that's very smart to know how intimidating it can be to see, people just so effortlessly create stuff that generates so much attention to them and builds their businesses or their brands or whatever, and think like, how on earth do I get there? And there really is a roadmap that, as in many things in life, you only learn by figuring it out. And if you guys can, it's almost like learn from my mistakes, so you don't have to learn from your own. If you could present those mistakes to your new users so they don't have to fall on their face over and over again, I think that's really smart, man. I do.
Exactly. Yeah, we have all the data of thousands of people. We see who's effective, who's not, what are they doing, what's not working. Yeah, and we're going to include that in the app and just have people follow the plan.
Very cool. I love it. All right. Final question. This is a little bit of a closing tradition on the show. Where do you envision yourself when you're calling it a day and you're putting your head down at night and you're thinking like, oh, wow, where could this be in 10 years? The thing that you're almost like too afraid to talk about or too afraid to admit to people. What's the vision that you have in your head?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think a lot of people want more freedom in life. A lot more people probably want to have lives that are maybe a little bit like ours. I've a lot of freedom. I don't need to be in the office at 9 a.m. I don't need to, adjust my calendar to my boss. And, I'm not saying that's for everyone, but I do think that a lot of people would really enjoy like having one day off, having to be able to finance that one day off at least.
Mhm.
And so my vision for our product is that we can help people, like literally 1 million people in 10 years, to create more freedom in their life, to have a small business that helps supplement their income and have the possibility to go at this full time. And I think like this has been going on for years already, but like the creator economy, like people creating things, selling that to their peers, I think that's a great way to, build a business and enjoy your life doing what you want instead of doing it for your boss. And so that's what I would love to see in 10 years, to help 1 million people get a lot more freedom in their life and sell their own thing.
You said that twice, 1 million people. So that's what you have in your head, 1 million people?
Yep.
It's doable, man. I was skeptical about the whole creator economy thing, but the more and more I see how society morphs, the more I see it almost as like a necessity. Like everything gets more and more long tail. And so like everybody has a really specific thing. The example that I always use, which is just the first one that pops in my head, is these people I see that are selling courses on mowing fucking lawns. And they're creating these YouTube videos. They get like millions of views, and then they're selling courses about mowing lawns. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This dude is making so much money off of TikTok and an email course about how to cut grass. Like you can do anything. And so I think the sky's the limit for you guys. I really do.
Yeah. 1 million likes on a video on how to mow a lawn. It's incredible. I've watched them as well. And so there are like, 1 million different niches, and I think there are a lot more, small niches that are still, waiting to get picked up. So a lot of opportunities to come.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Yannick, thank you so much for your time. Of course, there's hypefury.com, right? I didn't screw that up, did I?
Yep.
.com.
It is .com.
And then I know that you said that you don't really get too much into your own Twitter, but let's still give it a shout out. Yannick _Veys. Did I get your last name right?
Yeah, almost like a Veys. Yeah.
Veys,
Veys.
Yeah. All of this will be linked in the show notes of the episode. Go to copybloggerpod.com to see everything that we talked about in this episode, and also sign up for the newsletter, because our podcast newsletter is a little bit different. We take sound bites from every episode and we put them into written form. So if you don't have time to listen to the whole episode, you can still get all of the good stuff with one simple newsletter. Man, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. It was a joy talking to you. Good luck with your vision. And you can definitely count on me to be a customer, like forever, basically. I love it. So thanks again.
Thanks, Tim. It was a pleasure and an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.